I used to be the Goblin tyrant who dominated the sunset forest. I was once an immortal spirit who fought through the Holy Bull War overnight. I was once the maker of the last Philosopher's Stone. I used to be a hero who slaughtered gods with a mortal body. I was once the founding giant of the mythological era. These epic past memories are engraved in the Book of Truth, one by one becoming the decks used by Ye Qiong. While others are still hunting monsters and searching for remains to obtain cards, he has already stepped into cycle after cycle, and these cycle experiences will be transformed into magical cards one by one. Keywords of the novel. What era is it? Still in traditional card making without pop-ups. What era is it? Still in traditional card making. TXT complete collection download. What era is it? Still in traditional card making. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Card Master System. Reincarnation System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Card Master System. Reincarnation System. Pain, it hurts too much. Ye Qiong struggled to open his eyes, feeling as if his head was about to explode. Fragmented memories kept flooding into his mind, and only when his condition improved slightly did he have the strength to examine the surrounding environment. The unfamiliar ceiling, unfamiliar furniture, the room was pitch black, with only one round of moonlight shining in. Under the moonlight, Ye Qiong walked up to the desk. Learning card making from scratch, a simple and easy to understand method for making purple cards, business card printing. From beginner to bald head. 10,000 question marks flashed through Ye Qiong's heart. What kind of ghost is this? Combined with the surrounding environment and the outrageous title of the book, Ye Qiong had a vague guess in his heart. Is it difficult for me to travel through it? Just as the thought flashed, Ye Qiong felt his head start to ache again, and memories flooded in again. This is called Blue Star, a world dominated by cards, and all battles here can be resolved using a mode called Duel. Cards are divided into 3 categories. Monster cards, magic cards, and trap cards. The known cards are divided into 6 levels. White Normal, Cyan Beginner, Blue Advanced, Purple Epic, Golden Legend, and the Red Divine Seal that only a few people possess. Cards are not something that only a few people can use. Even ordinary families can use the power of cards to make their daily lives more convenient. However, in order to obtain more advanced cards, one needs to become a card master. The level of a card master is the same as that of a card and is also divided into 6 levels. The specific professions can be divided into 2 categories. Battle card makers and card makers. The former, as the name suggests, is a profession that fights through the use of card power. This world is not peaceful, and monsters often appear. War card players can seal monsters into blank cards by killing them, becoming their own support. And the card maker is more direct. Powerful card makers only need to obtain the materials on the monster to make cards related to it. After receiving these messages, Ye Qiong couldn't help but sigh, what a wonderful and exciting world. In his past life, he was born in an orphanage without a father or mother, so naturally he had fewer worries. He has always lived a peaceful life, not smoking, and only dabbling in alcohol. Every night at 11 o'clock, he would drink a glass of warm milk and then fall asleep on time. Although this kind of peaceful life is good, Ye Qiong always feels that something is wrong. He slowly comes to a waiting mirror. The man in front of him is just like him in the previous life, but he is much younger. Having a slender figure, handsome facial features, and a dignified demeanor, when portrayed as the protagonist in a novel, readers would all say, I feel a strong sense of immersion. The figure reflected on the mirror, with an excited smile hanging on it, did not bring panic and tension to Ye Qiong due to the sudden passage. Some only had excitement after the peaceful life was broken. But the excitement didn't linger for long, and the vibration of the phone caught Ye Qiong off guard. He unlocked the lock screen and clicked on the Penguin app with a red dot. A girl named Ying Luo sent him a message, as if afraid that he was already asleep, and even shook her up a bit. Ye Qiong, you haven't awakened to become a card master yet. There's no need to accept Wang Nan's duel, and even if you win, I won't associate with you. After flipping through my memory, I finally remembered what was going on. Originally a student from 87th High School, she had always had a crush on Ying Luo, who was the school flower. However, as an ordinary class student, how could he attract the attention of the goddess of the key class? It should be noted that students in key classes awaken to become card masters before reaching adulthood, and students with their own card decks are all proud of themselves. Wang Nan was also one of them, who saw through his original thoughts and wanted to give him a hard slap in the face to pay homage to the goddess. But the original body felt a bit overwhelmed, not only accepting Wang Nan's challenge, but also setting up a flag like, if I win, can you be my girlfriend? After reading these memories, Ye Qiong seems very speechless. No, you have to accept the challenge. The problem is, where are you stuck? You should know that after awakening to become a card player, a thing called a contract book will appear, and the card player's card will be placed inside it. But now, no matter how Ye Qiong calls out, there is no sign of a contract, which proves that the original body is a weak chicken without even a card. For a moment, Ye Qiong, who had just been full of ambition and wanted to break through the sky, fell silent. Why don't we just give up tomorrow? No, it's not possible. This way, there won't be the soul of the traveler either. Speaking of the soul of the traveler, where is the essential thing I need? System, speak up. If you're here, give it a beep. Is there really no such thing? I knew all novels were deceiving. Not long before Ye Qiong felt lost, a sudden ding sound made him somewhat overjoyed. I knew all the novels were autobiographies. Binding to the world's strongest card player system, please wait for the host. After this sentence, Ye Qiong, who had just recovered from a headache, began to fall ill again. This 1 or 2 is just going to make things difficult for me, right? Although that's the case, Ye Qiong still has some enjoyment. He's not a tick-tock, it's a joy of a bountiful harvest. It's like a dog head facing a novice hand. In the early stages, I was subjected to cold looks and had to hide in the toilet. In the later stages, I became a desert god of death, one by one. What is this called? This is the joy of a bountiful harvest. Now, Ye Qiong can be said to be full of expectations, eagerly watching the progress bar continuously elongate, afraid that it will stop at 99.9% like a certain thunder. Fortunately, there is something in this system that was already bound in less than 2 minutes. Ding, the world's strongest card player system has been bound. Please explore the specific functions on your own. No, you didn't even leave a manual. No matter how Ye Qiong shouted afterwards, the system couldn't come out with a single beep, and he had no choice but to study it himself. Quickly, he realized why the system had to explore on its own, because he realized that the system panel was not particularly poor or concise. There are only 4 functions in total: production, decomposition, reincarnation, and recharge. His grandmother's, if the font used for the other 3 functions is Song Typeface 4, then the recharged font must be Song Typeface 1, which is more than 5 or 6 times larger. It's really Sima Zhao's heart, as everyone knows, he is so skilled at planning. Why not go to the neighboring goose farm to watch it? Also, when you mentioned the production breakdown, I can barely read and understand it, but what kind of ghost is this reincarnation? If it's clear, it's not a function that a card player system should have. I need to reincarnate and go to the neighboring Oriental Fantasy Studio. At the bottom right corner, there is a currency named Reincarnation coin that looks like a circular eye. The 1000 reincarnation coins on top are probably your newbie gift pack. Looking up and down, I couldn't find the location of the store. It seems that if I want to spend this money, I can only press the button called Reincarnation. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Screaming Goblin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Screaming Goblin. Without much hesitation, Ye Qiong lightly pressed it and soon the system reacted. The panel, which originally had 4 functions, was replaced by 2 paragraphs of text. Let me just put it bluntly. Your system is a bit poor, and this text doesn't even come with a picture. The first paragraph. Regarding my reincarnation as Goblin and my dominance in the Sunset Forest. 100 cycles of coins, well, the anime has a good harvest. Second paragraph. The Holy Bowl War. 1000 cycle coins, hello, are you clearly plagiarizing? What are these 3 exclamation marks with unclear meanings? No matter which of these 2 paragraphs, Ye Qiong has a great desire to roast. After comparing the ticket prices, Ye Qiong still chose to reincarnate and become Goblin. At present, we don't know how to obtain the reincarnation coin, but caution is still the main approach. What if this is a soul-based game? I paid 1000 yuan for the ticket and then came up to kill my first encounter. Unable to withstand, truly unable to withstand. I lightly pressed on the first paragraph of the text, and the system, which had just shouted but remained silent, finally responded. May I ask if you have brought any skills into the dungeon? Do I have that thing? You can buy it. I don't know if it's an illusion, but when the system said this sentence, the tone was noticeably louder, just like the reaction of an insurance salesperson when a customer said, "I'm interested." Then, the system, which was still very poor just now, presented Ye Qiong with a dazzling skill catalog with a video demonstration. No, which game manufacturer did you learn from when you spent all your funds on cryptocurrency? Looking at these expensive prices, Ye Qiong also understood that this system is arousing his desire to work harder, the old capitalist. Enter the dungeon without carrying skills. The system seemed not surprised by Ye Qiong's answer and continued to ask, may I ask if you want to change your background? No need, we're all so poor. Why bother choosing our parents? May I ask if you bring an assistant? Do you have a dragon maid? If you do, bring me one. Ye Qiong casually asked, but received an unexpected answer. Yes, 9.99 million reincarnation coins. Do you want to pay? Is it really there? For this answer, Ye Qiong was pleasantly surprised, but he couldn't afford it even at this price. May I ask if there has been a change in air transportation? No change. Ye Qiong also noticed that the skill tree in this system is definitely a bit crooked, and the infrastructure is not well done, so there are a lot of gold points to be earned. After the last question was asked by the system, Ye Qiong suddenly felt his consciousness becoming blurred, with only the sound coming from the system in his ears. Jumping time point. Nebula Empire Calendar Year 780, Space Coordinates. Tiana Universe, Silver Spirit Constellation Right Cantilever, Blue Continent, Sunset Forest, Reincarnation is about to be completed, please prepare the host well. Congratulations to the host for successfully reincarnating into an ordinary goblin. Ye Qiong opened his eyes and saw a forest in front of him. The distant sky and trees were particularly eye-catching, reaching up to the clouds. Unlike the blue star, this place called the Blue Continent had 2 suns hanging in the sky. There was a giant dragon roaring in the sky, with crimson pupils occasionally peeking down, as if searching for their own prey. Soon, he discovered a lone howling moon wolf. Swinging its huge wings, it flew rapidly downwards, skillfully biting the back of the howling moon wolf's neck and flying high into the air. The curvature of its mouth seemed to prove the joy of this successful hunting. And Ye Qiong's reincarnation became the goblin, not far from the howling moon wolf. If nothing unexpected happened, he should have been the food in its mouth, but unfortunately, the dragon was still half a step ahead of it. Looking at the strange Western art style, Ye Qiong couldn't help but sigh, wow, he was extremely excited to see a real dragon for the first time. But after excitement, the question arises. How can this green goblin use its small wooden stick to break through a world of monsters? Now he can't even survive, let alone dominate. A brown bear with a scar on its forehead was approaching Ye Qiong step by step, but he didn't think about it and ran away. Are you kidding me? I'm going to vomit. As the brown bear approached closer and closer, Ye Qiong also knew that with Goblin's speed, he would inevitably be caught up. Looking at the numerous trees around him, he already had a method in his heart. Since I can't run, why don't I just climb the tree? Although Goblin's physical fitness is poor, his advantage lies in his agility. He can climb up trees that are 5 or 6 meters long in just a few strokes. Looking at the dancing brown bear below, Ye Qiong couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in his heart. He hooked his index finger at it and said the classic line from his past life. Come here. But what Ye Qiong never expected was that a series of ground stabs suddenly appeared in front of him, and he couldn't touch the defense, so he was stabbed and felt a chill in his heart. Now he understood that this bear was not an ordinary bear, but one that could use magic. The movements he had just made were just casting spells. Goblin's body fell heavily, and the brown bear patted it upwards, seemingly responding to what Ye Qiong had just said. I have never heard such a lowly request. Ye Qiong, whose consciousness returned to reality, suddenly shivered as if the pain had just returned to reality. He touched his chest, which had just turned red, as if he was dreaming. Congratulations to the host for completing the cycle. Defeat enemy. 0 achievement. Master of Killing, comment. F. This is the first time I've seen such a deadly goblin, obtaining reincarnation coins. 1. Obtaining card Screaming Goblin. The evaluation of the system was very short, and Ye Qiong finished reading it all at once. He could only say that the evaluation was very accurate, but he still had to grit his teeth. Just now, I was just unfamiliar with the environment. Next, I will activate the King mode, and I won't die even with a single move. Turning his head, he looked at the book that appeared in his hand, with its pure black appearance and 3 large characters written on it. Contract letter, proving its identity. It seems that due to obtaining cards, the contract naturally appeared in front of Ye Qiong, but he said, after the agreed awakening, there will be a complete set of cards. Okay, Ye Qiong also understood. It seems that the path he has to take is completely different from the others. Traditional card maker. In the beginning of the game, the issuing team relies entirely on playing cards. Ye Qiong. At the beginning, issue 1,000 reincarnation coins, and the cards are all reincarnated by oneself. To form a complete deck, it seems necessary to continue the cycle. After all, a deck requires at least 10 cards to start. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Stargazing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Stargazing. Next, it's time to take a look at the card effects that come out of reincarnation. The card surface is exquisitely crafted, and it's not an exaggeration to say it's lifelike. It restores the lifelike posture of Ye Qiong, who just shouted and died. He couldn't help but touch his chest, afraid that a brown bear would come out and give him a blow. Card name. Screaming Goblin, grade. White normal, type. Monster card, introduction. He doesn't seem to be aware of the upcoming crisis. Effect 1. Mocking. You must first attack this mocking follower. When this card appears on the field, the opponent monster will be instantly attracted to hatred. Note. Whose subordinate is this goblin? He is so brave that he dares to provoke even the Earthcracker Bear. Effect 2. Colonectomy. Kill the monster that should be followed and weaken for 3 rounds. Note. Due to the hard meat, the ground-cracked bear ate its belly, and indeed Goblin's death was also a disaster, as a white regular level card, having 2 effects is already good, and these 2 effects can also form a combo. Want to hit me? First kill the mockery, then eat this debuff. Is this comment really annoying? What is goblins? They are all disasters. Is it clear that this ground fisher bear is causing trouble for itself, and even if it's eaten, it doesn't taste good? What little fairy, she dug her heart and lungs, but in exchange for disgust. TSK, I don't know what to do. This death not only did not make Ye Qiong feel fearful, but also became even more excited. As he said, he did not tremble, but felt a sense of joy in the harvest. How could it be such a good thing to only get a card after dying once? Others work tirelessly playing monsters to obtain cards, while oneself only needs to simulate it to obtain cards. This good thing, even holding a lantern, cannot be found. Looking at his remaining 901 reincarnation coins, Ye Qiong didn't even think about it. He directly invested 100 reincarnation coins again and went to Sunset Forest to be his godmother's goblin again. The system still sent familiar questions, and Ye Qiong chose to deny them one by one. The familiar blurring of consciousness made Ye Qiong feel that reincarnation had begun again, and the sound of the system came from his ears again. Jumping time point. Nebula Empire Calendar Year 780, Space Coordinates. Tiana Universe, Silver Spirit Constellation Right Cantilever, Blue Continent, Sunset Forest, reincarnation is about to be completed, please prepare the host well. Congratulations to the host for successfully reincarnating into an ordinary goblin. Wow. Before the dragon could pounce, Ye Qiong had already spoken out the exclamation he had made during his first reincarnation. Although the ground fisher bear that had killed him had not yet appeared, Ye Qiong still chose to run first. Only fools wait for disaster to come, while wise men have long run away. So, a short goblin kept shuttling through the forest and finally stopped at a seemingly safe place. I always feel so quiet here. Unexpectedly, Ye Qiong said something he shouldn't have said. He clearly realized it, paused, looked around, smiled bitterly, with a relieved smile on his face, and took the next sentence. What, I can run quite well. A spider silk thread passed through Goblin's chest, and in the Sunset Forest, an area appeared extremely quiet. There could only be one reason, which is that there are powerful monsters present here, and this is their hunting ground. The six-eyed spider perched on the trees is the owner of this place. It was surprised by the intrusion of Goblin, but it would definitely be a good thing if it could add food. Therefore, the six-eyed spider didn't think about it and started hunting directly. Poor Ye Qiong, being played with by the monsters of the Sunset Forest between his thighs. Consciousness returned to reality once again, and chest pain was still faintly felt. No, just now we couldn't get over each other's heads, why can't we get over my chest now? Ye Qiong could not help but murmur a word. The evaluation of the system is coming soon. Congratulations to the host for completing the cycle defeat enemy. 0, achievement. Triumphal death, comment. F. This is the second time I've seen Goblin who would die like this, obtaining reincarnation coins. 1. Obtaining card Panic Goblin, taking out the contract. Ye Qiong couldn't help but sigh heavily when he saw the second card that appeared. It was still so vividly drawn, depicting the struggle, fear, and liberation before Goblin's death, as if Mao Yang was still alive. But the problem is, the owner of this card is himself. Pat your chest, tidy up your mood, it's time to see the effect of this card. Card name. Panic Goblin, grade. White normal, type. Monster card, introduction. He seems to be aware of the upcoming crisis, so he starts to panic and run away. Effect 1. Sense of crisis, flip through the top 5 cards of your opponent and decide the order at will. Note. It's a blessing or not a curse, it's a curse that can't be avoided. This card has only one effect, but it surprised Ye Qiong greatly. This skill, Stargazing. No, now is not the time for prosperity. Anyone who has watched Game King knows that the protagonist has a magical skill called Divine Draw, but this skill is tightly restrained by the card in front of them. Do you like to smoke? Let me give you a hand at observing the stars and place your lightning feather sweep at the bottom. Even if you know how to print cards, you wouldn't have to forcefully print them out after I've seen your cards, would you? If he really did this, he could only say one thing. Bah, it's shameless, I'm still turning off the light. Ye Qiong, who had obtained a powerful card, felt a little excited at this moment. Even though it was in the middle of the night, he couldn't stop Ye Qiong's longing for liver. There are still 8 cards left to form a deck. Without further ado, liver. System, is it there? Come out and give me a ding, my lord is going to reincarnate. This failure made Ye Qiong realize a problem. In a dangerous place like the Sunset Forest, it is meaningless to hide recklessly. In that case, he must take the initiative to attack. This time, he must kill the be-ground fisher bear. Familiarly handing in 100 reincarnation coins, when the system mentioned whether to change his background, Ye Qiong paused for a moment and asked about the price. After learning about the price, Ye Qiong could only choose the orphan who had no parents to start with again. Jumping time point. Nebula Empire Calendar Year 780, Space Coordinates. Tiana Universe, Silver Spirit Constellation Right Cantilever, Blue Continent, Sunset Forest, Reincarnation is about to be completed, please prepare the host well. Congratulations to the host for successfully reincarnating into an ordinary goblin. Wow, with a familiar sigh, Ye Qiong began to set traps. This trap was not meant to catch the ground fisher bear, but to delay its steps. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Spider Swallowing Bear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Spider Swallowing Bear. The trap set by Ye Qiong is very simple. When heading towards the direction of the 6-eyed spider, dig some potholes. These potholes are definitely not enough to make the ground fisher bear lose its mobility, but they can cause some trouble when it is chasing Ye Qiong. After completing these tasks, Ye Qiong picked up the small stones on the ground and prepared for the arrival of the ground fisher bear. 10, 9, 8, 7. Counting silently in his heart until they reached 0, the familiar figure appeared in front of Ye Qiong with clumsy steps. Throwing the small stone in his hand, Ye Qiong didn't hesitate much and threw it towards the direction of the ground fisher bear. Although this strike failed to penetrate the enemy's armor, it penetrated their psychological defenses. The ground fisher bear glanced towards Ye Qiong and a question mark flashed over its head. Little brother, what's going on? These days, even a mere goblin dares to provoke it. Originally, the earth-cracking bear had a very violent temper. When provoked by a small goblin, it became even more angry and ran towards Ye Qiong. This speed doesn't match its physique at all. How could a chubby person run so fast? We're almost catching up with the cheetah. At the moment when Ye Qiong smashed the small stone, he had already moved his short legs and started running, occasionally looking back to see the situation behind him. With a loud bang, the ground-crack bear's paw stepped on the ground, causing little harm but extremely insulting. It immediately realized that this must be what the goblin had just set up. What is it? It's the first time I've seen Goblin die with his life. Even though the pursuit was a bit panting, the footsteps did not stop at all. For the Green Goblin, it had already taken on the heart of killing. But it is precisely because of this foolish behavior that it did not realize that it had entered the territory of other monsters. After being a quack for a while, Ye Qiong said to the ground fisher bear behind him, please come inside, Taijun. Then he made preparations to leave. After all, those 6-eyed spiders are not easy to deal with either. The hard truth is to quickly find a safe place while the two monsters are fighting. But before he could even leave, he heard the sound of whoosh crawling. Ye Qiong was also very familiar with this sound. The last time he heard this sound, he was pricked with a deep chill. Brother Xiong, help me hold on a little longer. Ye Qiong silently added some oil to Brother Xiong in his heart, but this sentence was like pouring a mouthful of poisonous milk into him. A mournful cry came from behind him, and when he looked back, he found that Brother Xiong's treatment was not much different from his previous reincarnation, with a sharp spider thorn piercing his chest. The cracked bear's eyes were half open, and what it saw was the direction Ye Qiong had fled. Even though he was seriously injured, he resolutely chose to use all his magic to kill the noisy goblin. A sharp yellow ground spike appeared, constantly extending towards the hateful green goblin, but the distance was still too far. The ground fisher bear died with its own heart full of sorrow and anger. And Ye Qiong naturally understood that this was Xiong Ge's last ripple. Although he was not moved, he even wanted to laugh, but this did not prevent him from collecting intelligence. Is the longest distance 10 meters? Xiong, you can't do it. It's too short, isn't it? After mocking him for a while, Ye Qiong was about to leave when he found that the six-eyed spider was constantly searching for something on the body of the ground fisher bear. Ye Qiong was a bit surprised, his treatment was different. He vaguely remembers the last time he died. After these six-eyed spiders killed him, they casually threw it away like throwing garbage, as if they even despised their own blood and dirt, and wiped them with a few leaves. But right now, it really makes Goblin shiver with anger. Why do they treat the same prey differently? Do they look down on Goblin? Curious about this behavior, Ye Qiong chose to stop and watch the six-eyed spider search for the body of the ground fisher bear. These six-eyed spiders searched for a long time on the corpse of the ground fisher bear and finally found a dark yellow crystal. They seemed extremely happy about it and made a squeaking sound, spinning silk and wrapping it on the spider's claw at the front right. Then they turned their gaze to Ye Qiong. Suddenly seen by 6 crimson eyes, even though Ye Qiong's heart was so big, it couldn't help but start to panic. How could this spider have such good eyesight? It can be seen from such a distance. Goblin's short legs are still not as good as the spider's 8 long legs, and besides, this is still someone else's territory. How can we run? A familiar feeling surged into Ye Qiong's heart. As he looked at the spider thorn piercing through his chest, he understood what was going on. He turned to look at the six-eyed spider that had killed him, only to find that all 6 of its eyes were filled with playfulness. It seems that it has already discovered Ye Qiong, but in its eyes, a goblin is nothing to worry about. It can be found and killed at any time, or it is more important to find the magic core on the ground fisher bear. And Ye Qiong, at this moment, did not give up. He had a strong desire to survive, purely because he wanted to return to his original self. Ganlin Yang. How could Ye Qiong be willing to go through 3 rounds of reincarnation without even receiving a good thing? Looking at the magic core placed on top of the spider thorn, I was eager to find something good that could make this spider search so much. Half kneeling on the ground, seemingly weak due to excessive blood loss, is actually quietly grabbing a handful of sand on the ground. And because the six-eyed spider had harvested a magic core, he was in a good mood and had a strong sense of playfulness. He was not in a hurry to kill Ye Qiong, which gave him a chance. In an instant, Ye Qiong began to struggle and threw the sand in his hand onto the eyes of the six-eyed spider. Have many eyes, right? Good eyesight, right? Today I'll tell you a lesson. Having more eyes also means you have more weaknesses. Do you really think that having too many eyes is an evil god? Even though the six-eyed spider's reaction was extremely fast, it was still hit by some sand and the 2 eyes were closed. Although the damage to the six-eyed spider was not high, this strike really angered it. Just as he was about to take good care of the goblin, he realized that he didn't take this opportunity to escape, but instead charged straight towards him. Are goblins so brave these days? The question flashed through six-eyed spider's mind. But that's just right. With just a gentle stab, you can kill this annoying goblin. But Ye Qiong was already prepared for this blow and dodged sideways. Although he still scraped his skin, it was no longer a big deal compared to the injury on his chest. He approached the six-eyed spider, and his terrifying face was so close to him. The 2 deaths brought not only pain to Ye Qiong, but also familiarity with death. His fear of death is constantly diminishing. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Blue card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Blue card. Ye Qiong crawled along the spider's claws to the middle nest. It was not far from reaching the dark yellow magic core, but the six-eyed spider had been completely angered by Goblin's behavior. A weak existence that could not even be called a prey, yet it repeatedly provoked it. Spit out the spider silk, which had a blue magic attached to it, like a living creature, and charged straight towards Ye Qiong. Ye Qiong, who knew something was amiss, crawled along her claws, leaped forward, and jumped onto the spider claw holding the magic core. The spider silk behind him kept chasing him, and Ye Qiong's pace also kept accelerating, as if returning to light. Despite being seriously injured, his speed not only did not slow down, but also became faster and faster. 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. As long as you reach that place, Ye Qiong can return to capital. The six-eyed spider also sensed Ye Qiong's intention. It didn't understand. Why is this goblin so obsessed with that magic core, even if he eats it? Isn't there nothing left after death? Why do we have to do this kind of useless work? Thinking of this, my heart became much restless, and I spat out a lot of spider silk to pursue Ye Qiong. And Ye Qiong, having already obtained the long-awaited magic core, couldn't wait to peel off the spider silk. He felt like the thing was very hard, not even biting, and swallowed it directly. Looking at the spider silk attacking from the rear, there is no fear at all. Anyway, you have already obtained what you want, and you can kill or cut it as you please. In fact, the six-eyed spider also thinks the same way. It wouldn't think that this goblin is so brave, and then develop a love for talent. For this despicable goblin, it would love to eat its meat, drink its blood, twitch its tendons, and bruise its bones and ashes. The spider claw extended and threw the goblin into its mouth. After a while, it regretted it. This goblin tastes so bad. After rummaging through the body, I found the magic core and, feeling disgusted, wiped it with a leaf before finally retracting it. On the other side of Ye Qiong, he had already returned to the real world. He couldn't help but shiver uncontrollably, as if the pain he had just felt was still lingering on him. The feeling at that time was difficult to describe in words. The binding sensation brought by spider silk, the scorching sensation brought by the magic core, and the pain of being chewed by spiders, combined together, can be considered torture. After calming down a bit, the sound of the system came, still the familiar, ding, sound. Congratulations to the host for completing the cycle kill enemy. 0. Indirect killing enemy. 1. Achievement. Immortal killer, evaluation. Against the heavens, committing a serious illness. You are walking further and further on the path of death, and have already walked out of your own path of death. It is not an exaggeration to call you the immortal of death. Obtained item. Primary rock magic core, evaluation. Obtaining reincarnation coins. 150, earned it, finally earned it. Ye Qiong didn't care about the system's comments. He reincarnated 3 times and finally received an E.level evaluation. Not only that, but I also earned 50 reincarnation coins this time. It's not far from summoning the dragon maid to accompany me to the sunset forest. However, what Ye Qiong is most concerned about now is what cards he has obtained in this reincarnation. Obtaining cards. Transfer hate, throw goblin, not bad. This time in the cycle, Ye Qiong obtained 2 brand new cards. He eagerly opened the contract and found those 2 newly obtained cards. Card name. Transfer hate, level. Beginner's blue, type. Trap card, effect 1. When the opponent monster launches an attack, the target can be transferred to another monster. Note. In ancient times, Sun Yu drove tigers and wolves, but now there is Goblin driving spiders and bears, and he even hooked himself up, gaining more knowledge. The quality of the card face is still very high, and the ground crack bear glares angrily, chasing after Goblin who dares to provoke him, but does not notice at all. Crisis quietly arrives, and a 6-eyed spider comes behind it. In the shadow, a pair of green eyes appeared, whispering and seemingly satisfied with their masterpiece. Seeing the beginner level of Qingse, Ye Qiong felt a burst of ecstasy in his heart. After seeing the effect, he was delighted again. The most crucial aspect of this card is that the object can be taken from the opposite side, not necessarily limited to one's own field. If used properly, it can not only block an attack from the opposite side, but also kill one of their monsters. The first card is already so powerful, so what about the next second card? With this in mind, Ye Qiong eagerly picked up the second card and looked at it carefully. Above the card was a strange goblin, which Lu Fan had no impression of. The goblin was carrying a bamboo basket on its back, littered with stones, and held one in his hand, as if launching an attack. Ye Qiong couldn't help but speculate about this. Is it difficult to say that this is a new form obtained by Goblin after eating the primary rock-type magic core? Ye Qiong continued to look, his gaze focused on the small character below the card face. Card name. Throw Goblin, level. Beginner's blue, type. Monster card, effect 1. Sneak attack. When appearing on stage, you can launch a direct attack on the opponent's dueler. Duh. Take me for a throw attack. Effect 2. A shower of stones in the sky can attack all the monsters on the opponent's field once each. What's wrong with smashing you? Come and hit me, stupid, hee. How should this card be evaluated? It can only be said that it is very similar to the owner of the card, full of mockery. The first effect is to throw a stone at the opponent's dueler as soon as they appear, and you can see if the opponent spends resources to kill you. The second effect is that other monsters can only be fought once per turn. He is good, as long as there are enough monsters on the opposite field, he can fight as many times as he wants, which also means filling up the hatred of the monsters on the opposite side. Although there was no mention of mockery in the effect, how did Ye Qiong feel that if this card were to appear, it would definitely bring a bloody storm, which was provided by throwing goblins? Overall, the harvest was quite fruitful this time, with 2 green cards and 150 reincarnation coins. Not only did he not lose, but he also earned some health. He was still 6 cards away from a set of cards, so there was no need for him to hesitate. Not much to say, liver burning. This time, he chose a completely different strategy direction from the previous one. The method of driving spiders and swallowing bears did not work, and even if he could get the card of throwing goblins, it would not be of much use. Is Ye Qiong the kind of petty person he is? Is throwing a goblin card enough for 50 reincarnation coins? No, this time he's going to do something big. He's going to talk to Brother Xiong about a business deal and use his magic core. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Making Traps. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Making Traps. If you want to take the magic core from Brother Xiong's hand, it is definitely not feasible to fight alone. The weak goblin and the massive earthcrack bear have different levels of combat power. Fortunately, in the last reincarnation, Ye Qiong received intelligence that the ground spike used by the earthcrack bear has a maximum casting range of 10 meters. If a bear trap could be created, Ye Qiong could emulate the classic scene of Tom hitting a dog and draw a line 10 meters away from the ground fisher bear, slowly grinding it to death at this distance. However, in the Sunset Forest, there is no steel rope to bind the ground cracked bear, nor is there a trap, so only a slightly earthy method can be used. After devising a strategy, Ye Qiong called out the system for the 4th round of reincarnation. Congratulations to the host for successfully reincarnating into an ordinary goblin. Wow. After a familiar sigh, Ye Qiong raced against time to leave this position. He understood that the ground fisher bear would arrive soon. The first 3 cycles of reincarnation were not without success. He learned about a deadly habit of the ground fisher bear, which is that he enjoys walking comfortable paths. This habit exists in the vast majority of animals, even humans. When you see a pile of wooden thorns in front of you, would you choose to go around or step on them? The result is self-evident. And this ground-cracked bear has implemented this habit to the extreme. Even with a wooden stick, it refuses to step on it. This gave Ye Qiong an opportunity to set up a trap and place some seemingly casual but carefully planned wooden sticks and thorns around it. On the surface, the ground fisher bear is walking according to its own wishes, but in reality, it has already fallen into the corridor planned by Ye Qiong. When it reaches the end, it is the time to fall into a trap. What we need to do now is to avoid the ears and eyes of the ground fisher bear and create such a trap. Quickly, Ye Qiong found a good place, far from the territory of the six-eyed spider and within the wandering range of the ground fisher bear. He immediately started digging a pit, which didn't need to be too deep, just needed to be able to trap the ground fisher bear for a while. It takes time and effort to dig a hole that is enough to trap the ground fisher bear, and he doesn't have the right tools or conditions to do it. Digging a 1.5 meter high sinkhole is completely enough. After an hour of hard work, the pit was finally dug. Ye Qiong searched around and found some sharp wooden thorns, which he inserted into his lair. These wooden thorns had a shape very similar to soap needles, but their sharpness was even greater than that. The best outcome of this trap is to discard the front and back legs of the ground fisher bear. The speed of this fat bear is too fast, and it poses a great threat to Ye Qiong. First, slow down its speed and choose the kite flying method, which is the best choice. However, if you waste its key parts, such as its eyes, the effect will naturally be even better. Even if this sinkhole failed to penetrate the enemy's armor, Ye Qiong still had a backhand and continued straight along the previously dug sinkhole, staying 30 meters away from the sinkhole. Repeat the previous steps again and dig a similar sinkhole at this location. This process is another hour of labor. Seeing two falling holes, one in front and one on the right, Ye Qiong felt a sense of pride in his heart. However, this was not the end. After all, the ground fisher bear was not a fool. How could the bright falling hole be stepped on? Ye Qiong ran around and found some thin and long wooden sticks, which were stacked on top of the sinkhole to form a skeleton and provide support. Then, he collected some soil, leaves, and moss to cover the trap as a cover. After this work is completed, it will be considered as the official production of Luoxue. The next step is to create a corridor that guides the ground fisher bear forward. Holding a large number of wooden thorns and sticks, the leaf dome returns to the first created pit and looks around, already knowing how to plan the route. Put down the wooden sticks and thorns in your hand one by one, and a seemingly casual but carefully planned trap is generated. Next, just wait for the prey to come over. During this time, Ye Qiong began to make his own weapon, holding a small wooden stick. Even if it was to deal with an injured beast, it was difficult to be enemies with it. The materials in the sunset forest were limited, making it difficult to make any weapons with killing power. Find a thin and sturdy bark, weave it into a rope, then find a long and pointed stone, and a wooden stick. Use the woven rope to tie them together and make a stone hammer. This is the weapon that Ye Qiong has prepared for himself. Holding the freshly made weapon in his hand, Ye Qiong went to the second pit not far away and ambushed, quietly waiting for the appearance of the ground fisher bear. The position of the ground fisher bear's movement was very irregular, like a street wanderer, swaying left and right, and Ye Qiong wished for a change in his plan. A stone hammer hit the ground fisher bear's head, causing a wave of flesh to attract monsters. Taking a deep breath and calming his mood, Ye Qiong told himself, hunters need patience the most. 3 hours have passed. Knock on you. Are you, this bear, coming or not? Ye Qiong watched helplessly as the ground fisher bear swayed left and right, back and forth, but did not enter the trap he had set up. Ye Qiong, holding the stone hammer in his hand, was so anxious that he felt like King Jiji. Just as patience was gradually depleting, Ye Qiong's eyes suddenly lit up. The ground fisher bear entered the range and stepped into the corridor he had already planned. Ye Qiong, who was not far away, wildly waved flags and cheered for him. Right, 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 that's where we're going. Nice, brother, this wave of movement is very extreme. I'll knock, brother Xiong, you're so stunned. You're all here for a moment. Slowly, Ye Qiong's eyes became serious, only 10 meters away from the trap he had set up. He kept counting silently in his heart, 10 meters, 8 meters, 3 meters. A mournful cry came over, and Ye Qiong became excited. The ground fisher bear finally entered the trap he had set up, but he quickly calmed down because the battle was not over yet. The 1.5 meter high drop hole is not difficult for the ground fisher bear to get up. The blood stains on its body told Ye Qiong that the drop hole worked, but the wound was too shallow and far from affecting its mobility. Ye Qiong frowned and knew that things were not so simple. Exposed his head, he waved his hand at Brother Xiong. The ground fisher bear, who was already in a trap and in a very bad mood, immediately became angry when he saw this situation. Where did Goblin come from? I dare to provoke it at this moment. Landing on all fours, he charged straight towards Ye Qiong. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Brother Xiong falls. Lu, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Brother Xiong falls. Lu, Ye Qiong just stayed in place, motionless, with a frightened expression. Seeing his prey like this, the ground fisher bear roared at him fiercely, seemingly enjoying the pleasure of hunting. But who is the hunter and who is the prey, it's not certain yet. We're almost there. I was calculating the distance between the ground fisher bear and its second lair in my heart. The damage caused by the first lair just now only slowed down its speed a little, which was not enough. If I want to hunt it, the second lair must hit a critical hit to increase its damage. The howling sound came again, and poor Brother Xiong was being played with by Ye Qiong between his thighs. This time, the howling sound was much louder than before. Right, the louder the sound, the more severe the injury. The parties involved, on the other hand, were very heartless and slapped their thighs, frantically cheering. The ground fisher bear climbed up, and Ye Qiong was not far from its position. He could clearly see that many wooden thorns pierced directly into the bear's palm. The ground fisher bear walks with a limping posture, and it seems that this time it falls, it has caused extremely serious injuries. Its eyes were fierce, and it roared at Ye Qiong twice, with a crazy liking for Up. Despite its injuries, Up charged straight towards Ye Qiong. For Ye Qiong, he had already anticipated it. How can we say it? His tactics are deeply rooted in the essence of guerrilla warfare. When the enemy advances, we retreat, when the enemy stays, we harass, when the enemy is tired, we fight, when the enemy retreats, we chase, when he pulls, he cracks the ground and makes the bear's scalp tingle. When he pulls, he even dares not even watch the video. For distance control, it has always been maintained at around 6 meters. As for why this distance is maintained, it is not to guide Brother Xiong to amplify his moves. If Ye Qiong has been casting from a distance, Xiong Gu is not foolish. How could he use magic to attack Ye Qiong? This distance is just right. If Goblin is not clear about the earth-cracking bear skill, he may really be ambushed, but Ye Qiong has already suffered losses and naturally has some precautions. Seeing the yellow light emanating from the ground fisher bear's body, he understood that it was a prelude to releasing the ground thorn and quickly ran forward. After a distance of about 10 meters, he drew a line on the ground with a stone axe and said, "You can only come here, you can't cross it." The ground spike finally stopped in front of this thread, and the ground fisher bear man fainted. What's wrong with Goblin? Why is he so slippery? Seeing the helplessness of long-range means, Ye Qiong chose to engage in close combat, but his hind leg was pierced by a wooden thorn. He dared not run too hard, and the result was that his speed could not match that of the Goblin in front of him. I saw Goblin, the incarnation of Ye Qiong, sometimes advancing, hitting the ground-cracked bear with a hammer, sometimes retreating, pulling to a distance of 6 meters to prevent further harm being hit by a ground spike. The kite fight made the ground-cracked bear extremely restless, but the bear's paw couldn't even touch the Goblin in front of it. "Master Xiong, your fist is too slow," Ye Qiong said provocatively. Although Goblin's body is frail, its mobility is not limited. It is much faster than humans, and the reason for this is also related to Goblin's habits. Goblin is an extremely cunning creature, very afraid of the weak and the hard. If encountering a monster like Slime whose physique and strength are far inferior to his own, he will not hesitate to wave his small wooden stick and launch an attack. If encountering a monster whose physique is much taller than his own, he will not hesitate to turn around and run away. To survive in this predatory sunset forest, you need to put more effort into your feet, so you can see that almost all goblins are as fast as a gust of wind when running away. There's no way, if you can't beat others, then you can only run faster than others. Although the stone hammer in Ye Qiong's hand did not cause particularly severe damage to the ground fisher bear, over time, it had already shed a lot of blood on its head, and its breathing had become much heavier, becoming extremely weak. Ye Qiong did not relax his vigilance towards this. The more experienced the hunters were, the more they understood that the most dangerous time was when the prey was on the brink of death, and they would make the final counterattack. The weakness of the ground fisher bear is real and cannot be faked, but its hatred towards Ye Qiong is also genuine. It is waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the opportunity for Ye Qiong to approach. But in the end, it underestimated the cunning of Green Goblin in front of it. When it saw the ground fisher bear panting weakly, it not only did not approach, but also pulled the distance further away, afraid that the ground fisher bear would make an instant stab and kill him in seconds. Death is a small matter, but losing money is the big deal. He hopes that one day in the future, he will summon a dragon maid and gallop on the sunset forest. You should know that Ye Qiong, whether in his past or present life, is a severe dragon cancer patient. Playing Game King only plays the Dragon Clan deck, such as the blue-eyed white dragon and the galaxy-eyed space dragon. As long as the race is the Dragon Clan, the outstanding one is the one who does not refuse visitors, except for Little Blue. The same goes for the Poem of Shadows. Whatever fast attack dragons or Satan dragons, regardless of whether you have a version deck, just play hard. The skin is only made of Longqi Yangyu. Saying that shadow poetry is not fun or something is definitely deceiving. Playing Three Kingdoms Kill is even more outrageous. Only playing SP Zhao Yun, the mastermind of the plan, Red Rabbit, makes him a man without a horse. Dragon Maid, my Dragon Maid, he sometimes, people who pursue their dreams are more capable of exerting their abilities than those who achieve them. This statement makes sense. Ye Qiong is in such a psychological state that the ground fisher bear in front of him has automatically transformed into reincarnation coins. He doesn't want to buy or sell at a loss. By being cautious, he can avoid all problems. Why not do it? The ground fisher bear saw that it couldn't deceive Goblin into taking the bait, and was also angry. Ignoring its own injuries, it rushed towards Ye Qiongfei. However, even though it had already sacrificed its life, its speed was still too slow. Running to the right to avoid this flying attack, a stone hammer hit the head of the ground fisher bear. Seeing a yellow light flashing over the ground fisher bear's body, he immediately distanced himself and never coveted the sword. With such a combat style, he is definitely a veteran player of the One Soul series. The ground spike arrived soon, but the distance was just right. The distant goblin was like the white moonlight in the heart of the ground fisher bear, always within reach. It flashed a horse lantern in front of it, saw the ignorance of its youth, and finally collapsed weakly to the ground. The ground fisher bear that once casually grasped Ye Qiong was calculated to death by him, and the bear's paw will never touch his face. At this moment, the parties involved were not too excited and still chose to be vigilant, occasionally throwing a stone over, afraid that the ground would crack and bear the corpse. 10 minutes passed, and 30 minutes passed. Ye Qiong slowly stepped forward and gradually approached the ground fisher bear. He hit the bear's head with a stone hammer and quickly pulled himself apart. Seeing no response, he breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to dispose of the body. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Pain, to Pain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Pain, 2 pain. The process of removing the primary rock-type magic core from the ground fisher bear is extremely difficult. Because Ye Qiong did not have a suitable knife in his hand, he had to search for some sharp stones or wooden spikes and slowly grind them. Although Goblin has sharp teeth and a sharp mouth, it would be a bit difficult for him if he were to bite and tear open the bare fur like a wild beast. Fortunately, although the process was tortuous, the result was always good. A pale yellow crystal appeared before Ye Qiong's eyes. At this moment, Ye Qiong is extremely excited and about to evolve. Would you like to play a song from Digimon? Is it better to play a Pokémon tune? Waiting online, it's quite urgent. The last experience of swallowing this magic core is still vivid in my mind. To gain the power within the core, it is not enough to swallow it. The intense feeling from the beginning still lingers in Ye Qiong's chest. This is a trial, and only by crossing the past can we obtain the evolved posture. Looking around, although there is no demon hunting at the moment, the body of the ground fisher bear will inevitably attract some unwelcome visitors, and this is not a good place for evolution. With this in mind, Ye Qiong had no further hesitation. He abandoned Xiong Ji's body and headed towards the northwest. The top priority now was to swallow the demon core first. Lu Sun once said, "Beasts always walk alone, and cattle and sheep flock together." Generally speaking, the weaker the monsters, the more they will gather together, which is why there must be a large number of goblins and slimes at the entrance of the novice village in all games. Because they have been living in the forest for a long time and deeply understand the laws of forest survival, where are powerful monsters. Their hearts are clear. What they will do is to find a place that no one looks up to, live together in groups, so that even if there are powerful monsters attacking, they have a certain resistance ability. If you want to know if a place is safe, just look at how many slimes there are and Goblin will know. Ye Qiong walked cautiously in the forest, even afraid to run and attract the attention of monsters. He wanted to find a paradise, also known as the beginner's village, and held the treasure in his hand for lewd development. Quietly, the sun was about to set, and dusk was coming. Ye Qiong, who was walking constantly, felt depressed and began to roast about his own system. This dog system won't throw me into any forbidden place, will it? There's an opportunity here for me to absorb a million-year soul ring, right? I can go to your place. Fortunately, Ye Qiong finally saw a glimmer of hope, and many slimes were bouncing around before his eyes, quietly hiding and starting to search for intelligence in the vicinity. After a trip, all I received was good news. As expected by Ye Qiong, there must be a place where weak monsters live together. The most powerful monster here, even if it was Ye Qiong, could come forward and say, "I'm 5-5 with it." Found a tree hole, Ye Qiong prepared to use it as a temporary base. The location of this tree hole is excellent, only 100 meters away from the water source, and there are many wild fruits around that can serve as food. The most crucial thing is that near this tree hole, Ye Qiong cannot find any footprints, which is enough to prove that this is an ownerless land, and Ye Qiong can confidently evolve here. Take a deep breath, everything is ready, just one step away from the door. Ye Qiong is not an indecisive person. Even if he dies here, he only loses a little reincarnation coin and throws the magic core into his mouth, swallowing it. The familiar burning sensation came again, from the throat to the abdomen, as if a fire was burning. Even though Ye Qiong had experienced 3 cycles of death, he couldn't resist it and made a sound in pain. In order to keep her consciousness clear, Ye Qiong can only keep talking, which can also divert her attention. Tofu flowers should be sweet. What's the mentality of people who eat salty ones? Sweet zongzi is not eaten by dogs. What kind of heresy can develop this way of eating? This process was extremely long, and Ye Qiong could no longer remember how many topics he had thrown up to debate. The passage of time became meaningless, and for Ye Qiong now, every minute and every second was a torment. It's like hearing my girlfriend say she's going for a run on Valentine's Day night, and the panting sound she makes as she steps her thighs deeply stimulates his heart. Pain, it hurts too much. The current Ye Qiong really doesn't want to wait for a second longer and wants to end this long trial quickly. The power of this magic core is not something that people can absorb. Time has turned from dusk to darkness, and a round of moonlight quietly rises. This scene can be said to be the most peaceful and comfortable in the sunset forest, but the leaf dome in the tree hole is not in the mood to appreciate all of this. With his hand to his chest, he can feel that his heart is constantly beating faster and evolution is still ongoing. About 2 hours later, Ye Qiong's breathing gradually became calm, and a sense of strength surged up in his heart. He could feel that his right arm was strong and powerful. In the words of a fantasy novel, it was. Ye Qiong's right arm now has the power of a cow. But why is only the right arm strong? Is it difficult because of the characteristic of throwing goblins, which require only the right hand to exert force? I'm really shivering with anger. Throwing goblins means you can't be left-handed, right? Do you look down upon left-handed people? I'm going to fight now. After experiencing such a long torture, what it has brought is only an increase in the strength of the right arm. At this moment, Ye Qiong can be said to be very indignant. Doesn't he have any magic to fill a cup with? Where is Brother Xiong's thorn? I'll switch jobs and throw goblins. I'll have to pick up the stones myself, right? What kind of job transfer is this? Just as Ye Qiong was thinking this, a raw and difficult to understand text entered his mind, and a goblin language blurted out. Subsequently, on Ye Qiong's right hand, a small stone appeared, which continued to grow larger over time and eventually became the size of an adult fist. Is this the magic I learned after evolution? Ye Qiong couldn't help but have this doubt in his heart. At the moment he released this magic, he knew the name of the magic. Magic stone composition. The name sounds nice, but no matter how it looks, it's just an ordinary stone. Unbelieving the evil, he threw it outside the tree hole, but the result was very surprising. This magic stone directly pierced through a tree, leaving a very obvious stone mark on the next tree before falling to the ground. Stupid cow. Ye Qiong couldn't help but let out a surprised voice. At this moment, he remembered the skill to throw the Goblinska face. A sky full of stone rain. This is clearly an AoE skill. How can this be achieved? Slowly, a magic stone was generated again in the hand. Although this process is not slow, it is definitely not conducive to the battle. About half an hour later, Ye Qiong looked at the 7 or 8 magic stones on the ground and immediately understood. Is that why Goblin was thrown on the cart with a bamboo basket on his back? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Wise Goblin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Wise Goblin Gonlingyang. Is this the truth behind the card face? How real? If considering the issue of sustained combat, first use magic stone formation in the tree hole, throw a bamboo basket full, and then go hunting, which is the best choice? Considering the strength, Ye Qiong had to go around tomorrow to search for materials and make a bamboo basket for his own use. Originally, just after evolution, Ye Qiong was already very weak. Now that he has made so many magic stones, Ye Qiong suddenly felt a wave of weakness, and a huge sense of hunger struck. At this moment, Ye Qiong only had one thought in his heart, which was, "Brother Xiong, I miss you." This thought was truly sincere. For the first time, Ye Qiong knew that being hungry enough to eat a bear was not an adjective. Helpless, he had to walk out of the tree hole and search for some wild fruits to satisfy his hunger. However, this ultimately treated the symptoms rather than the root cause. Although the hunger had slowed down, the rumbling sound in his stomach told Ye Qiong that it was time to go hunting and eat meat. Ye Qiong understood that the middle of the night was not a good time for hunting. Even the weak monsters hid, and the powerful monsters themselves could not provoke them. He walked back into the tree hole and forced himself to sleep, waiting for tomorrow to be fine. Tomorrow, he had to eat a whole meal of wild boar meat. With hope for tomorrow, Ye Qiong slept in, and this sleep was not very beautiful. Isn't that a natural thing? In a situation of hunger and cold, who can sleep well? The cool breeze outside is so cold that Ye Qiong trembles in waves. He can guarantee that even a homeless person may not live worse than him. Ye Qiong did not go hunting directly, but picked up some vines, woven them into a basket, and carried them on his back. This basket is extremely easy to make, and it is definitely not possible to put some small things, but it is more than enough to store magic stones. The current Ye Qiong has transformed into the appearance of throwing goblins on the card surface, holding a magic stone in his hand, and the basket behind him is filled with magic stones. Thanks to learning many obscure skills in his past life, he would have had to hunt with 2 magic stones. Yesterday, Ye Qiong had already stepped on a wild boar with fangs, and he was particularly concerned about it. Isn't that fat body just for others to eat? Its habitat is not far from the tree hole, about several hundred meters away. The distance was not too far, and soon he arrived. At this moment, the Fangya pig was drinking water by the lake, feeling very comfortable and unaware of the danger. Ye Qiong tiptoed forward, afraid of startling the Fang pig. Aiming at it, the Fang pig is already within range. I'm 100 meters tall, driving a wooden stake that won't move. How come this is empty? At the beginning, he spoke boldly, and then began to speak nonsense. Damn it, why are you still walking around? Seeing and hearing about your domineering demeanor, right? It's not fair. It's not fair. In fact, this Fang pig didn't move much, just slightly twisted its head to drink water. As a result, it dodged the magic stone with this twist, but even so, a rapid wind blew past its ear, which really startled it. At this moment, the expression of the Fang pig was like this. Sigma, such a loud commotion naturally caused the Fangya pig to flee. Ye Qiong adjusted his posture and aimed at the fleeing Fangya pig. Although it may sound a bit harsh, I am actually better at shooting moving targets. My right arm's veins burst out, and the magic stone was even pinched with some cracks. I put on a pitching posture, charge up, throw. The process was completed in one go, and this magic stone quickly attacked the direction of the Fangya pig, hitting its head. The Fangya pig was hit by such a big wave and collapsed weakly to the ground. Seeing the prey fall, Ye Qiong also ran over quickly, thinking about your wild boar meat for a long time. Grasping the hind legs of the Fang pig, I planned to drag it back into the tree hole. Such a large wild boar will definitely not be able to finish eating for a while, and the rest will be kept as reserve food for the future. There were no good seasonings nearby, so Ye Qiong had to raise a bonfire, wash the Fangya pig, and cook it briefly before inserting it into a wooden thorn and grilling it. The process of roasting takes a long time, so he decided to sit on the ground and make a magic stone. He had also seen the power of this magic stone, so it would be a good thing to have more reserves. Half an hour later, the sound of a wooden stick being crushed caught Ye Qiong's attention. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw 3 goblins hiding behind the trees, secretly looking at himself. In an instant, he understood that the aroma of roasted wild boars had attracted them over. This is the first time Ye Qiong has seen a similar creature, and he has a lot to ask about these 3 goblins. For example, whether there are other evolutionary pathways for goblin, and how goblin should evolve next. These questions need to be answered by these goblin natives. Put on a friendly demeanor and greet them in goblins. Upon hearing this friendly language, the 3 goblins also began to dance and seem extremely excited. A bolder goblin walked forward and greeted Ye Qiong in goblin language, while the other 2 followed suit. Ye Qiong responded to this one by one. Seeing that the wild boar meat was about to be roasted, he invited 3 goblins to sit down and asked, "Where do you come from?" Goblin, with a scar on his forehead, pointed southwest and said, "That's our tribe, we're out hunting." "So, I wonder who your leader is." Upon hearing these words, it lowered its head and responded with a mournful tone, originally a wise man, but he was killed by that silver dragon. We no longer have a leader. Sage. Is it difficult to evolve into the goblin sage as the next step? Ye Qiong is very interested in this. In front of the 3 goblins, he made a magic stone and asked, "Can your wise men do such a thing?" As soon as these words were spoken, the 3 goblins became restless, pounding their chests and stomping their feet, as if Ye Qiong's words were insulting their family leader, and creaking a lot. Ye Qiong could barely hear what they were trying to express. What are you joking about? The sage is much stronger than this. Only a powerful silver dragon can kill him. Ye Qiong handed over a piece of wild boar meat and smiled, "Don't worry, brother. You have something to say." After eating wild pork, Goblin's anger dissipated a bit, and his attitude was not as close as before. After finishing his meal, Ye Qiong became interested in the Goblin tribe and suggested, "Can I go back to the tribe with you to take a look?" After hesitating for a moment, the scarred Goblin, the leader, nodded in agreement. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Diary of the Sage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Diary of the Sage. The Goblin tribe is not far away. After all, these 3 goblins are out hunting and not fleeing. Why do they run so far when they have nothing to do? From a distance, you can see many tent-sized wooden houses that are not neatly arranged, indicating that there are no OCD patients inside Goblin. This kind of house is just enough for Goblin to live in. After all, Goblin is not a tall monster. Just like Ye Qiong, he is already considered strong in Goblin, but his height is only a little over 1 meter, like a dwarf. Just as he stepped into the tribe, Goblin inside did not cast a curious glance at Ye Qiong, an outsider, as if it was normal for a newcomer to arrive. And the 3 goblins leading Ye Qiong turned around and planned to leave. Hello, wait a moment. Where is the guide? What guidance? No, isn't there anything like beginner guidance? What kind of thing? Just find a place to live on your own and it's over. Do you need me to teach you this kind of thing? This time, Scar Goblin led his 2 younger brothers and left without looking back. Okay, what a cool and thin race, without any warmth or affection. No wonder the wooden houses in the tribe are built so unevenly, and everyone's treatment is half a pound. The first thing to learn here is self-reliance. Want to find a place to live? Find an empty space to deal with and complete the task. He did not immediately build a residence for himself, but instead approached an elderly goblin with white beard and said, "Brother, I don't know about you anymore. Do you know anything about the wise goblin?" This old goblin gave Ye Qiong a white glance. What the hell? He's almost his grandfather at his age, and he's still using this trick. But when he saw Ye Qiong holding a piece of wild boar meat in his hand, his attitude suddenly changed. He hugged his shoulder and shook his right hand, as if saying, "Brother, come on, some more." After thinking for a moment, Ye Qiong realized that if there was any news about the wise man of Goblin, it wouldn't be okay to give him even a little more. He then reached into the bamboo basket again and threw a piece of wild boar meat to the old goblin. This old goblin also snorted twice in satisfaction, then pointed his right hand towards a wooden house in the northwest direction, and then continued to take a nap to sleep. What does it mean? Patted old goblin's shoulder. The old goblin said impatiently, "That's where the wise men used to live. If you want to find something, go there yourself." Immediately, he pushed away the hand that Ye Qiong had placed on him. There Ye Qiong looked at the wooden house, which was indeed much more luxurious than other goblins' wooden houses. At the entrance were the skulls of 2 bull-headed men, which seemed to be the spoils of the wise. However, why was it so desolate? Many weeds have grown in front of the door, almost half the height of a goblin, and it seems like it has been a long time since it was taken care of. From the conversation with Scar Goblin just now, it can be inferred that they should have great respect for the wise goblin. Why are they unwilling to even take some time to clean up Goblin's old house? Filled with curiosity, he walked forward and touched the doorknob. There was a lot of dust, and it seemed like no one had entered it for a long time. However, Ye Qiong's obvious disrespectful behavior towards the wise goblin did not provoke any dissatisfaction or criticism. Everyone still went their separate ways, and it is truly sad that the habits of a race can be so indifferent. Pushing open the door, the first thing I saw was a bookshelf, and it was truly surprising that a goblin would fill its home with books. Coming to the bookshelf, I reached out and touched it, and it was indeed covered in dust. I took out one of the books, blew some air, and blew away the dust so that I could recognize what was written on them in front of me. How Red Goblin continues to evolve. Oh, coming up is a good thing. What Ye Qiong needs most now is knowledge about Goblin. He quickly turned to the first page, but almost blinded his eyes. Mao, why is it an astringent picture? It's still Goblin's astringent picture. It's really you. Where did this goblin sage learn this technique of high school students hiding yellow books? What's the difference between this and the learning materials on the computer? It can only be said that the commonality among men is not racial, even for things with hidden colors. Take the second book from the bookshelf, with the title prominently written, How to Simplify the Composition of Magic Stones. Although there was a sense of foreboding in my heart, I chose to open it after all, and the picture I got was exactly the same as that of a book. This old man is not shy, isn't he hiding a bookshelf? Next, Ye Qiong, like not believing in evil, searched around. Goblin Young. This old thing really did it this way, leaving nothing useful behind. Holding a diary in his hand, this was his last hope. Shouldn't it be? This old thing doesn't seem serious at first glance, so writing a diary shouldn't be too much. With hope in mind, Bing opened this diary and finally obtained some useful information. It was not a rough picture of Goblin, but a passage of text belonging to Goblin himself. Although it was obscure and difficult to understand, Ye Qiong was still able to barely understand it. June 21st. Sunny, how do high school students hide yellow books and elementary school students keep diaries? Keep looking down. I don't have much motivation today, let's write tomorrow. Hiss, an ominous premonition surged in my heart. Keep looking down. June 22nd. The weather today is not very good, so we can't go hunting. We can only eat wild fruits to satisfy our hunger, and our mood is not particularly good. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Ye Qiong slammed the diary in his hand against the table, and he knew it would unfold like this. Where is Goblin Sage? It is clear that pigeons have transformed into some kind of writer, and they are in a bad mood. Today, pigeons have gone. But there is still a glimmer of hope in my heart. Continuing to open it, most of the content in this diary is about recording some trivial things in life. In the first half of the diary, the life of the wise goblin was not particularly good, and it can be seen that this was an event before he became a wise man. Continuing to read, I finally found some useful information. July 4th. Sunny, this is already the third year of content. I accidentally stumbled into a cave while hunting the Fong Fong pig, where I saw something that I would never forget in my life. I knocked, the big one was coming, and Ye Qiong quickly turned to the next page. Because that thing is too shocking and my heart is very restless, I will write it tomorrow. I can go to your horse's house. Suppressing the urge to throw out the diary in his hand, Ye Qiong turned to the next page. End of this chapter.